The President's remarks to the Annapolis graduating class, Annapolis, Maryland, June 7, 1961.
Admiral, Mr. Secretary, members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, members of the faculty, members of the graduating classes and their families. I am proud, as a citizen of the United States, to come to this institution and this room where there is concentrated so many men who have committed themselves to the defense of the United States. I am honored to be here. In the past, I have had some slight contact with this service, though I never did reach the state of professional and physical perfection where I could hope that anyone would ever mistake me for an Annapolis graduate. I know that you were constantly warned during your days here not to mix in your naval career in politics. I should point out, however, on the other side, that my rather rapid rise from a reserve lieutenant of uncertain standing to commander-in-chief has been because I did not follow that very good advice. I trust, however, that those of you who are regulars will for a moment grant a retired civilian officer some measure of fellowship. Nearly a half a century ago, President Woodrow Wilson came here to Annapolis on a similar mission and addressed the class of 1914. And that day, the graduating class numbered 154 men. There has been, since that time, a revolution in the size of our military establishment, and that revolution has been reflected in the revolution in the world around us. When Wilson addressed the class in 1914, the Victorian structure of power was still intact. The world was dominated by Europe, and Europe itself was the scene of an uneasy balance of power between dominant figures, and America was a spectator on a remote sideline. The autumn after Wilson came to Annapolis, the Victorian world began to fall to pieces, and our world, one half a century later, is vastly different. Today, we are witnesses to the most extraordinary revolution nearly in the history of the world, as the emergent nations of Latin America, Africa, and Asia awaken from long centuries of torpor and impatience. Today, the Victorian certitudes, which were taken to be so much a part of man's natural existence, are under siege by a faith committed to the destruction of liberal civilization. And today, the United States is no longer the spectator, but the leader. This half-century, therefore, has not only revolutionized the size of our military establishment, it has brought about also a more striking revolution in the things that the nation expects from the men in our service. 50 years ago, the graduates of the Naval Academy were expected to be seamen and leaders of men. They were reminded of the saying of John Paul Jones, "Give me a fast ship so that I may go into harm's way." When Captain Mahan began to write in the 90s on the general issues of war and peace and naval strategy, the Navy quickly shipped him to sea duty. Today, we expect all of you, in fact, you must of necessity, be prepared not only to handle a ship in a storm or a landing party on a beach, but to make great determinations which affect the survival of this country. The revolution in the technology of war makes it necessary in order that you, when you hold positions of command, may make an educated judgment between various techniques, that you also be a scientist and an engineer and a physicist. And your responsibilities go far beyond the classic problems of tactics and strategy. In the years to come, some of you will serve as your commandant did last year, as an advisor to foreign governments. Some will negotiate as Admiral Burke did in Korea with other governments on behalf of the United States. Some will go to the far reaches of space, and some will go to the bottom of the ocean. Many of you, from one time or another, in positions of command or as members of staff, will participate in great decisions which go far beyond the narrow reaches of professional competence. You gentlemen, therefore, have a most important responsibility to recognize that your education is just beginning and to be prepared in the most difficult period in the life of our country to play the role that the country hopes and needs and expects from you. You must understand not only this country but other countries. You must know something about strategy and tactics and logistics, but also economics and politics and diplomacy and history. You must know everything you can know about military power, and you must also understand the limits of military power. You must understand that few of the important problems of our time have, in the final analysis, been finally solved by military power alone. When I say that officers today must go far beyond the official curriculum, I say it not because I do not believe in the traditional relationship between the civilian and the military, but you must be more than the servants of national policy. You must be prepared to play a constructive role in the development of national policy, a policy which protects our interests and our security and the peace of the world. Woodrow Wilson reminded your predecessors that you were not serving a government or an administration, but a people. In serving the American people, you represent the American people and the best of the ideals of this free society. Your posture and your performance will provide many people far beyond our shores who know very little of our country the only evidence they will ever see as to whether America is truly dedicated to the cause of justice and freedom. In my inaugural address, I said that each citizen should be concerned not with what his country can do for him, but what he can do for his country. What you have chosen to do for your country, by devoting your life to the service of our country, is the greatest contribution that any man could make. It is easy for you in a moment of exhilaration today to say that you freely and gladly dedicate your life to the United States. But the life of service is a constant test of your will. It will be hard at times to face the personal sacrifice and the family inconvenience to maintain this high resolve to place the needs of your country above all else. When there is a visible enemy to fight, the tides of patriotism in this country run strong. But when there is a long, slow struggle with no immediate visible foe, when you watch your contemporaries indulging the urge for material gain and comfort and personal advancement, your choice will seem hard. And you will recall, I am sure, the lines found in an old sentry box at Gibraltar: God and the soldier all men adore, in time of trouble and no more. For when war is over and all things righted, God is neglected and the old soldier slighted. Never forget, however, that the battle for freedom takes many forms. Those who, through vigilance and firmness and devotion, are the great servants of this country. And let us have no doubt that the United States needs your devoted assistance today. The answer to those who challenge us so severely in so many parts of the globe lies in our willingness to freely commit ourselves to the maintenance of our country and the things for which it stands. This ceremony today represents the kind of commitment which you are willing to make. For that reason, I am proud to be here. This nation salutes you as you commence your service to our country in the hazardous days ahead. And on behalf of all of them, I congratulate you and thank you.